FPL double game week 37 team selection, and as you can see from the title, the bench boost is active. What is up everyone, how's it going? Hope you're keeping well and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. 2 game weeks to go, and with the bench boost chip active this week, I'm probably looking at a -4 or a -8, so stay tuned for that. In this video, I'm going to show you how I fared out in game week 36, and we'll also be looking at my transfer plans and team selection ahead of tomorrow's deadline. We have lots to discuss, let's get into the video. So before we get into today's video, quick reminder as always to give the video a like, and let's hit a like goal of 80 likes on this video. So head on down there, drop the video a like, and if you are watching and you haven't subscribed, please do hit that subscribe button below. I'm currently on the road to 6k subs, trying to get there before the end of the season. I'm just 99 subs off hitting my 6k milestone. So if you are one of those people that haven't subscribed, please head on down there, click subscribe, and help me on my way to hitting this milestone. We have 2 game weeks to get it. Very possible, but I need the help from you, the viewer. So if you haven't done so already, please do and support the channel. Free to do, doesn't cost you anything. Right, with that out of the way, let's get back to game week 36. I scored 102 points for the game week, which is a great score for the team. 10 out of my 11 players all returning. Unfortunately, Garnacho couldn't make it a full house on Monday night. Crystal Palace giving Man United an absolute thumping. Would have been lovely to get the 11 out of 11 and check that off for the season, but unfortunately we couldn't. But 10 players out of 11 was still a great return. We'll start off with the 2 new signings, Ben White and Verdial, and thankfully Arsenal were able to keep that clean sheet in the early kick-off against Bournemouth, as I had the double Arsenal offence in Gabriel and Ben White. I was deciding between Dan Burn or Ben White. Thankfully I did opt for Ben White, as Arsenal being one of the best defences in the league. Dan Burn obviously has that double game week this week, but I did prefer going for Ben White, and I was absolutely delighted that Newcastle conceded by a Darragh O'Shea header late on in that game. Apologies to any Newcastle defensive owners, but I badly needed that when I did go for Ben White. On to Verdial, and if you follow me on my socials, you would have saw that I was invited down to Dublin last week to the Joe.ie studios to record a podcast with Sports Joe, and when I was asked which FPL asset you should be looking at ahead of game week 36, I opted for Verdial, and thankfully he returned the favour by picking up a return. He was fouled for the first penalty for Haaland's goal, so he came away with an assist. He should have came away with a lot more, only for a howler from Ederson that wiped out that City clean sheet, but he picked up a bonus point and he came away with 6 points, so I was happy with that return. He also has a double game week now in game week 37 up against Fulham and Spurs, and in the positions he's currently playing for City, I'm expecting some good returns over the double game week. Going through the rest of the team there, and we have to give a special mention to our captain Erling Haaland, who came away with 4 goals and a monster 42 points from the armband. Absolutely crazy return from the big Norwegian. If you didn't captain Haaland, I do feel really sorry for you. The decision between Palmer and Haaland was pretty close. Thankfully I did leave it on Haaland, and thankfully he came away with that return. Palmer could only pick up a goal. He wasn't able to match Haaland's return from the day beforehand. But yeah, that swing, you couldn't have predicted that swing. Looking at Haaland now for the double game week up against Fulham and Spurs, I'm expecting a lot of goals for City in those games, and Haaland should be on the score sheet as well a couple of times, fingers crossed. He is running away with the golden boot at the moment. Palmer is chasing him down, but yeah, it's Haaland's to lose now at the moment, and I wouldn't be surprised, as I said, if he does add to his tally over that double game week. On to the Newcastle lads then. Anthony Gordon finally got his return away from home when he picked up an assist. Should have had more. He was fouled for a penalty. Isak stood up to take the penalty, and unfortunately he did miss. Fair enough, the Isak points wouldn't have mattered to my rank, but those Anthony Gordon points would have put me definitely up in the ranks also, so it was a shame we did miss out on those. Newcastle have a double game week now in game week 37, so I am expecting some nice returns from my Newcastle duo over the double game week. Going through the rest of the teams, some template returns. Petrovic got his clean sheet at home to West Ham. Unfortunately, I did have Gusto on the bench, so I had no way of getting Jackson into the team. Obviously, Jackson came away with a monster haul, 16 points, so if you did have Jackson, fair play on that. That's a lovely differential haul before the end of the season. Verdial, Ben White, Gabriel, we all spoke about them already. Son got his consolation goal away to Liverpool, and then Foden picked up an assist at home to Wolves also then. As I said, we talked about Garnacho, and unfortunately he wasn't able to return, so we didn't get the full house, but 10 out of 11 returns from my players in game week 36 was an absolutely beautiful return. The only thing that wasn't beautiful was that I didn't move in rank. I'm still at 57k overall. Before the Crystal Palace and United game on Monday night, I was sitting at 53, 54k, so around a 3 to 4k green arrow. But then unfortunately Bruno was left out of the squad, so that meant a lot of managers got the auto sub of Jackson coming into their team, and that left me on a grey arrow. I'm still at 57k overall. With just 2 game weeks to go, I think a realistic target is finishing inside the top 50k, so fingers crossed for 2 green arrows now in game week 37 and game week 38, and we can chalk off the season with a top 50k finish. With the game week 36 review out of the way, let's move on now and start planning ahead for the double game week ahead of tomorrow's deadline. So here's how I'm currently shaping up ahead of tomorrow's deadline, and as you can see, the bench boost is active, so I'm going to have 15 players for double game week 37. On the note of the bench boost, the ideal scenario will be 20 plus points, but looking at my starting 15 here, you can see I have a few single game week players, so a realistic scenario is probably going to be 10 to 20 points on the bench boost. Hopefully we can get closer to 20 points, but it all depends on whether or not Arsenal can keep a clean sheet away to Man United at the weekend. Starting off on the attacking front then, I'm fairly happy with how I'm lining out in the attack. I've got the front six template of Gordon, Son, Palmer and Foden in midfield, and then Haaland and Isak up front. So pretty much every manager in the top 100k is going to have that template front six. Then looking towards differentials this week, I've got Garnacho just over 10% owned. He's up against Arsenal and Newcastle. I'm not expecting much from the Arsenal game. He might get something against Newcastle. To be fair, he's one of United's best players all season. There's talk he might get rested over the double game week. I don't see it at all, even with Rashford coming back. Rashford has been very bad, so I can't see Garnacho losing a spot there over the double game week. At least we should be guaranteed 4 points from appearance points, and hopefully he can get something. Maybe mightn't get something against Arsenal, but hopefully he can get something at home to Newcastle. Then on to João Pedro then, my other differential, just over 6% owned in the game. Newcastle and Chelsea over the double game week, so there's a chance João Pedro can get something. He is on penalties. He did miss one against Aston Villa last week, but hopefully he should be still on penalty duties this week, so fingers crossed he can get a return and rise me up the ranks. So that's the attack. As I said, I'm happy enough with the attack, but when I shift my focus back to the defence, that's when there's a few cracks arising and ones that I'm going to have to sort ahead of tomorrow's deadline. We'll start off with Petrovic in goals. Can I see Sanchez coming back in for the double game week? No, Petrovic got his clean sheet last week against West Ham, so I'm pretty confident he's going to get 2 starts over the double game week. 2 away fixtures for Chelsea, up against Forest and Brighton. Am I expecting 2 clean sheets? No. Am I expecting 1 clean sheet? Probably not, but if Petrovic can get a few save points over the 2 games, he could come away with 4 or 5, maybe even 6 points. I'd be happy enough with that return over the 2 games. Onto the back line then, Vardiol. We spoke a lot about Vardiol earlier on in the video. Some of the positions he's been taking up for Man City is absolutely crazy for a defender in FPL, so hopefully we might see some attacking returns from Vardiol over the 2 games. Mightn't be able to see some of the defensive returns if Ederson is up to the same antics like he was against Wolves, but as I said, hopefully we can see some attacking returns. Onto the 2 Arsenal lads, Ben White and Gabriel. I'm probably going to move White onto the bench boost as he only has 1 game this weekend. Will he get the clean sheet against Man United? Probably. Arsenal, one of the best defences in the league. Man United, so poor at the moment, so I have the double Arsenal defence for that fixture, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that clean sheet in that game. You never know with United though. 4-0 thumping against Crystal Palace. They could come out all raring to go against that Arsenal in that game at the weekend and stop them from winning the title. But yeah, for now I am expecting a clean sheet, but all eyes on Old Trafford at the weekend. Then on to the cracks then in the defence. We'll start off with Gusto. He did make his cameo appearance against West Ham last weekend, so hopefully we just have to wait for Poch's press conference later on today for hopefully he'll give a clear indication and a clear update on Gusto. Probably I'm expecting 1 start. Don't think he'll get 2, but it's not worth getting rid of him for a hit if he is going to get one start, but we'll see what Poch says later on today. And then when I move on to my bench, 8 Nori at home to Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace just after giving Man United that 4-0 thumping, so I can't see a clean sheet there for Wolves, so I'll probably have to consider taking 8 Nori out of the team. And then finishing off with Kelleher. He's a Deadwood player, so he's a transfer I definitely have to make. Looking at goalkeepers, we'll chat about them in a few moments, but there's Onana, there's Vicario, there's maybe even Pickford with that Sheffield United fixture. But yeah, for now we need to wait for an update on Gusto. Probably look towards getting rid of 8 Nori and definitely have to get rid of Kelleher. But that's how I'm currently shaping up ahead of tomorrow's deadline. Let's move on now and look at my transfer plans and see what my moves are going to be. So looking at my transfer plans ahead of tomorrow's deadline, I'm currently looking towards making 2 moves in defence, and this will be for a -4. Starting off with my first move, I'm looking to take out Caoimhin Kelleher. He's not going to play any minutes over the double game week, and with me playing the bench boost, I need to have a goalkeeper who at least makes some appearance points over the 2 fixtures. So Kelleher is on the way out. If you're like myself, you're on the lookout for a goalkeeper for double game week 37 and potentially even game week 38. I was looking at Onana until Crystal Palace scored 4 against Man United, and along the fact that United play Arsenal and Newcastle over the double game week and then Brighton on the last day of the season. These fixtures don't really scream potential for clean sheets, so I forgot about Onana fairly quickly after that Crystal Palace game. You could look towards Pickford this week in game week 37 at home against Sheffield United, but then the fact that Everton play Arsenal in game week 38, that's the reason I didn't consider Pickford. That leads me on to then Vicario. Spurs up against Burnley. Fair enough, against Man City then in the second game of the double game week, so I won't be expecting much from that City game. Maybe some save points, but then in game week 38, Spurs play Sheffield United, so you would be hoping for a clean sheet there from Spurs. As you can see the image on Vicario there, when I took it from Google, he doesn't have any arms. He's probably been playing like that over in recent weeks, but hopefully he gets his arms back for the double game week, and hopefully we can get at least one clean sheet and maybe a few save points against Man City in that second fixture. That leads us on to my second transfer, and then I'm currently looking at taking out Aït-Nouri. He's only got one fixture over the double game week at home to Crystal Palace. We spoke a lot about Crystal Palace. I'm not expecting a clean sheet for Wolves with Palace in such good form over the last couple of weeks, so that's why I'm looking at bringing in Dan Burn for Aït-Nouri. Burn has that double game week up against Brighton and Man United, so you would probably expect at least one clean sheet for Newcastle over that double game week. That's why I'm looking at Dan Burn. Kieran Trippier has returned to Newcastle training, so we're going to have to wait for an update on his fitness from Eddie Howe. Knowing Eddie Howe, we're probably not going to get any news from him. But Trippier is a nice differential if you want to go for some other defensive cover with the Newcastle assets. But for now, Dan Burn is probably the safer pick going into that double game week, with probably the more security of getting 2 starts. So that's my potential moves ahead of tomorrow's deadline. I must say I won't be locking in my moves until just before the deadline, as we should get some City team news before the deadline, so we'll be waiting until then before I make my moves. Looking at the captaincy, there's no surprise to see Erling Haaland gets the armband just off the back of his 4-goal haul against Wolves in game week 36 and his 42-point return. I am expecting Haaland to get a few returns over the double game week, and he should come away with a double-digit haul, and that's why he gets the armband. If you've made it to the end of this video, please give it a like, drop a comment below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let's hit a like goal of 80 likes on this video, so head on down there, drop the video a like, and if you are still watching and you're not subscribed, please do hit that subscribe button below. I'm just 99 subs away from hitting my 6k milestone before the end of the season. We've 2 game weeks to get there. It's very doable, it's possible, but I need the help of you, the viewer. So if you are watching still and you haven't subscribed, head on down there, click subscribe and support the channel and help me on my way to surpassing that milestone. I'll see you all on Saturday afternoon for a deadline stream, although it's going to be an entertaining one as I do have a wedding today in Mayo. Today is Friday. I've got a wedding in Mayo, so that means I'm going to be up early after the wedding streaming. I've already arranged it with the hotel. The hotel has said that the Wi-Fi is good, so I'm going to bring my streaming stuff with me, and hopefully it won't be too bad of a hangover on Saturday afternoon. I might try and get some guests in from the wedding party. Might be a bit of crack then on Saturday afternoon, so it could be an entertaining one, and hopefully you can join me for that. Right then, that's how I'm currently looking ahead of the double game week. Best of luck for the week. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.